Welcome everyone, my name is Fist Truck. Some time ago I did a video called like the definitive Dark Souls boss tier list. No one watched that, but I had fun doing it. So guess what we're doing? A Bloodborne tier list. I figured it'd be a little bit on point since I recently did those how-to Bloodborne videos. In my Dark Souls video I had some criteria that I would use to rank the bosses. However, in this one I'm gonna kind of not really have that. It's just gonna be fun factor and maybe cool factor. Lore, I'm not really going to be taking into consideration because lore in this game is a fucking mess. Kind of cool, but a fucking mess. But before we get into that, you know it'd be really fun? If you were to hit that subscribe button. Alright, we're starting off strong. One Reborn. You know this one's going high. By high, I mean bad. One Reborn is bad. I really didn't have to spend much time thinking about this because it's the One Reborn. It's a collection of bodies. The only interesting mechanic is that you have to run up top and kill the ladies, otherwise they supercharge this motherfucker's spells. Aside from that, you're really spending most of the fight trying to cheese a motherfucker to death by constantly stun locking him. Either that or you're just getting randomly kicked by the legs that just trigger in the blink of an eye. Not a very interesting fight. And with the follow-up, we got the Witch of Hemwick. I'm torn in between whether or not this is butt shit or bad. The Witch is pretty fucking stupid. But at least it kind of has a cool mechanic with the whole insight thing that if you go into the fight with 0 insight, none of the enemies spawn. However, the fight is a little sneaky where when you come in, they automatically give you 1. But aside from that, actually fighting the witches is pretty bad. You're just running circles around the arena until you find them. You know what? I'll give it a B for effort and a B for butt shit. Witch of Hemwick is butt shit. Speaking of butt shit, probably gonna be just the straight up worst boss in the game, if not close. Rom fucking sucks. Rom fucking sucks. I don't know what to say. It's a fat spider with a bunch of little spiders that do the flying spider headbutt, which on later New Game Plus cycles one-shots you. It's fucking amazing. And then on top of that, even on base New Game, you get nuked in the blink of an eye. Now you can either bum rush the thing, which is the Unga Bunga Dum Dum strap, but it can work, or you take your time and kill all the spiders, which is not fun while you have meteors shot at you. Just literally not fun. We're gonna see a continuing trend in all the butt shit or bad bosses is that this game does things really well, yet for some reason like half the bosses in this game don't focus on the thing that this game does well, which is the fucking combat and doing your cool 1v1s. Thankfully, to make things significantly less worse, we have Martyr Logarius. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna put him in good because the first phase fucking is not the best. He's like the worst example of fucking Dark Souls or Elden Ring PvP when people spam spells. That is his entire phase 1. Phase 2 is really cool though. However, the bullet going around thing, I know it's his own little gimmick. Sometimes kind of annoying because it feels like it's inconsistent, but I guess you just have to really cut it like last second. If you try going for viscerals or something like that. But Logarius is super duper cool. The setting is cool. His moveset is fucking cool. And this has really nothing to do with the fight, but the whole you get the crown, put it on, and then everything just boop in front of you. Also pretty cool. Mergo's Wet Nurse. When I first played through this game, easily was a meh boss. It's like, wow, this boss looks cool. The whole swords thing kind of looking like the Grim Reaper. It's pretty fucking cool. However, I remember specifically in my first playthrough showing up, smacking him, and then just being like, okay, well, I guess that's done. So it didn't really kind of mean much to me. However, I did do one Blood level 4 playthrough, and that made me appreciate the fuck out of this boss, as dumb as that sounds. But the whole clone mechanic thing, when they all start showing up in the Shadow Realm and all that kind of stuff, learning that they show up from the direction that you are facing, not your camera, or it's not any random direction, it's the direction that your character is facing is where the clone will come from. So you can kind of use that to very skillfully and elegantly dodge all the attacks without any sort of fucking panic or chaos to it. Learning how you could just stand behind the boss and kind of get away with murder practically when she's doing the little blender type thing. Playing it on a level where I actually had to learn the fight and do everything properly made me appreciate it a lot more. So that's why I'm gonna put Mergo's Wet Nurse as good. Not that you should have to play through the game at Blood level 4 to appreciate some bosses, but I don't know, my list. Celestial Emissary, come on, like who? Come on. Like I'm not gonna talk about lore much, but if lore is the reason why this boss exists, it only makes me hate it more. They took an enemy that was quirky and then had you fight a shit ton of them at the same time. And then one of the enemies is actually the boss turning into a giant one, and it's incredibly easy to kill, but also does an outrageous amount of damage. I mean, this fight's incredibly easy unless you get stun locked, at which point it's just cheap. And this one's gonna be the hot take, I imagine. This is gonna be one of the hot takes of the video. So we have a butt shit boss coming right before a bad boss. This boss has easily the most sketch fucking hitboxes in the whole game. That tackle, insane. Those tentacles, you can try and dodge through them, but they'll carry you and then hit you anyway. And that's not even talking about the whole fucking mechanic in the second half of the fight where it has a little thing of fucking tic-tacs around it, and you're just taking chip damage over time, so your regain, your rally, whatever it is when you get health back, doesn't work in this fight, even though that's a fucking vital mechanic in the game. They always do something like this in their games where they have a boss that's completely antithetical to the game's design. Now, normally, I would shit on this boss even harder, but it is still kind of interesting to fight, even though half the time I feel like I get killed by this thing. It's fucked up and cheap. Also, Upper Cathedral Ward sucks. Fuck that place. Yharnam through Marion Queen. Okay, I'm gonna just get on my thing about Chalice Dungeons right now. Chalice Dungeons suck. On paper, they sound really cool because I would love nothing more than having just a limitless supply of good Soulsborne Rodin Ring content. However, when you start realizing all the samey tile sets, random enemy layouts, and sometimes downright boring boss design that's in the Chalice Dungeons, it kind of just turns out that it's like the Bloodborne that we have at home. It's Diet Bloodborne. And I guess if you're looking for a change of pace, Chalice Dungeons are good, but another good choice to change it up is to play a different game at that point. I have fought her twice. I have put over 1,000 hours into Bloodborne, and I have fought her twice. I forget the fight. All I remember is that she can freeze you in place and then grab you by screaming, and it's annoying. But you can also fucking stun lock her to death. But I guess the fight's kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like I should put it in bad with the way I'm talking about it, but I think it's because of its uniqueness in this case that I'm kind of putting it in the meh section. I feel like I haven't fought her enough times to really pass judgment on it like that. So, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it up meh. Ludwig, finally, our first amazing boss. Ludwig, what is first a weird sketch-ass horse boss that's pretty interesting to fight on its own, turns into one of the coolest bosses. The fucking boss design, perfect. The aesthetic, perfect. The fact that he's using a weapon that transcends just Bloodborne, perfect. The music, perfect. What more can I say? Ludwig is such a good fight and is the amazing start to the DLC, which, to be fair, the DLC has some sketch-ass level design, but the boss design of the DLC is 3 out of 5 really good. Speaking of really good, Orphan of Kaz. I'm also going to put him up in amazing. Orphan of Kaz is, I think, what they tried doing with Millennia and Elden Ring. Spoiler alert for when I do that list. Orphan of Kaz is the right kind of difficulty. Now, obviously, it's easy to say after you know how to do the fight that you could just try and spam them with viscerals, but even then, you still have to be fucking good at getting them. But just the design, the aesthetic, the transition from phase 1 to phase 2, it's all so good. It's the kind of difficulty that's punishing enough where I can get behind it, but it also makes sense for why it's so brutal. Once again, not gonna bring up lore too much, but, you know, this thing's practically a fucking god, so the fact that it fights like that, pretty cool. I'm okay with that. It makes sense, and in the grand scheme of the game, with the things that you fought leading up to the Orphan of Kaz, the difficulty ramp is pretty smooth. Also, the cutscene that plays after you beat him makes literally no sense to me, but I guess it's like cinematic. And apparently this list just throws all the DLC bosses one after another practically. Lady Maria, amazing. Fucking amazing. The music, absolutely fucking on point. The aesthetic, once again on point. The fight, fucking on point. That is how you progress a fight naturally. Her moveset really doesn't change that much as the fight goes on. It's just that they keep adding little things to it with range or the fire explosion shits that make her attacks that you already saw in phase 1 significantly more deadly. But if you learn how to deal with them in phase 1, you just have to deal with them with less room for error in phase 2 and 3. It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Maybe the only drawback I see to this is that you can stagger her a little too easily, which can allow for some fucking cheese, but you don't have to play that way, and if you choose to, more power to you. Watchdog of the Old Lords. We're going back to hell, because it's the Chalice Dungeons. I'm gonna say meh, like I remember this being the first boss that I fought in Challenge Dungeon. It's that one challenge that you get after you fight the Bloodstar of Beast. And I remember him fucking kicking my ass because I didn't realize that the challenge dungeons automatically start at a point that's kind of like higher than where you would be when you normally fight the Bloodstar of Beast. Watchdog's alright. I mean, the fire thing's kind of annoying, but it's not bad. There really hasn't been a time where I fought the Watchdog and hated it, nor liked it. So I'm just gonna keep him in there. Lawrence, speaking of hate, I'm gonna fuck with the order of these later. We're not there yet. Lawrence, I love that they felt the need to put a fucking awful boss in the DLC. It's like, hey man, this is extra content. This is kind of like the stuff that you feel like should just be there because, you know, we're having fun with it. And then there's something that's like this, the laziest fucking thing. It's the first boss of the game, except with fire. So now all the moves have AoE. He has a shit ton of health and does an outrageous amount of damage. And the only thing interesting about the fight is the fact that it's at least kind of different in phase 2, and as the fight progresses, you can see he's kind of like falling apart, if you will, or getting weaker. But when it comes to the actual design of the fight itself, fucking terrible. I hate this shit, and the fact that it's just a reskin of a boss is beyond fucking lazy. Also, while it's cool that it has a unique second phase, that second phase is also annoying as fuck. The lava thing, like, did anybody like that in Quelaag in Dark Souls 1? I'm not sure. Just saying. Lawrence, easily butt shit. Oh, Father Gascoigne is amazing. Father Gascoigne is so fucking amazing. Because, yo, second boss, and he's a second boss that teaches you how to play the fucking game. He is pretty fucking hard for a second boss, I'm not gonna lie. Every time I play through the game, Father Gascoigne is a fucking fight. Like, I cannot go there and just expect to steamroll the shit out of him. Even though there was at least 1 or 2 occasions where I had the pizza cutter and just fucking sawed him in the corner. That was pretty good. Anyway, Father Gascoigne is the perfect example of how an early game boss should be. Is it a little too brutal for early game boss? Maybe. But absolutely teaches you how to play the game. You can visceral him. You can stun lock him. You learn how to dodge. You learn how to look for tells. You are not one thing that these games are great at. You can look for other tools to help you beat him. If you find the music box, that helps. Throwing the Molotovs does a really good damage. It teaches you how to be resourceful. The Cleric Beast, I think, is a little too easy to really instill any of these lessons, but Father Gascoigne is just absolutely fucking chef's kiss. Such a good early game boss. Amygdala. If I was taking into consideration the run-up to the bosses, Amygdala would be in a pretty bad spot. But as it stands, is kind of meh. I don't know. Like at first, I kind of hated it, but then now I really don't hate it. It's just plain. Amygdala is a boss that I kind of just skip on playthroughs. Like the fact that it rips his own arms off is pretty fucking funny. However, the hitbox on those giant arm slam attacks are pretty fucking sketch. And then you constantly waiting for it to bring its arms or its head within melee range is not very fun. But it's also not that bad. And I haven't really had a rough time with them aside from the fucking the Defiled Chalice, I think it's called. You know, where you have half health. But as a whole, interesting look, uninteresting fight. Living Failures. I'm inclined to put in Living Failures and butt shit. But there's at least some kind of rhyme or reason to this fight as opposed to the Celestial Emissary. So I'm just gonna leave it in bad. Like, there are the 2 that melee, the 2 that magic. Obviously, the magic ones can still melee. However, they really don't use it that often unless you stay within melee, like a lot. It's kind of interesting to kite them around and try and focus, you know, certain ones down as you're trying to whittle through the health bar. But it's still kind of like a Celestial Emissary reskin, which is meh. And once again, kind of shows one of the aspects of this game that really doesn't shine, which is fighting multiple opponents at the same time. It really kind of doesn't work out, especially in a fight like this. Cleric Beast. Cleric Beast is a meh boss. Okay, so the walk up to Cleric Beast. Once again, I am not factoring this into the fight, but I'm just going to say that it's pretty cool that as you're climbing the ladder, you can hear the thing scream, and then as you're running down that bridge, it kind of just like, whoop, like jumps over. Pretty cool, and I dig it. But the actual fight itself is pretty boring, kind of uninteresting. I mean, it's a solid first fight. I will give it that. It's a solid first fight, but it doesn't quite tickle my jimmies in the way that I hoped it would. From first playthrough to any playthroughs I do nowadays, I go up to the Cleric Beast and I don't know, it just doesn't get me excited. But you know what does? Garamond, the first hunter. Would have been the perfect last boss, but I will save that for later. Garamond, the man in the wheelchair, the peg leg professional, has a cool ass weapon, does the size shit. BL4 fighting this guy was fucking terrible, but also exciting at the same time, having to learn to fight down to fucking science. The music, the fucking arena, the way the fight evolves, once again, just like Maria, the fight evolves in such a natural way. First phase, scythe. Second phase, sword and gun. Third phase, pretty much all that, but he just freely transitions between them, and now you cannot stagger the shit out of him. So you really have to be on your fucking P's and Q's with your openings. It's so good. It's so fucking good. What you're gonna find with most of the amazing bosses is that they're just people. It's a good, solid 1v1 versus a tough-ass opponent that's not on some crazy scale, because when it comes to big bosses with huge scale, for the most part, except for Ludwig, the game does a pretty not great job at handling that thanks to the camera, which we will get to on a specific boss. Pthumerian Descendant. Once again, just like a lot of Chalice Dungeon bosses, I kind of forget them, but I remember this guy being pretty cool. If I remember correctly, he like throws the shit at you, you try getting away from him. He's pretty fast, but has an interesting moveset to learn, and you can visceral him and all that kind of stuff. Solid boss, probably the best Chalice Dungeon boss, or original Chalice Dungeon specific boss. I just hate that they felt the need to pair him with the other one. I forget what it's called. Pthumerian Descendant, Pthumerian some other shit, but you know the one I'm talking about. Keeper of the Old Lords. Forgetful as fuck. It's the witch, right? She does the fire stuff, if I'm not mistaken. This shit is like you show up to the boss room and she's already dead. Like, there is not a single time I've gone to this fight, did it, and felt like I learned anything about it or remembered it. I'm just gonna throw it in bad. It wasn't awful enough for me to fucking remember to put it in butt shit, but it wasn't good enough to even be meh for me. Vicar Amelia. Good. You know, I'm gonna say good. Amelia's good. The feeling of fighting, and I will lump Cleric Beast, Vicar Amelia, and what will soon be Bloodstar of Beast into this kind of same pile. Vicar Amelia is like the good example of fighting a beast boss. It's a big boss. Sometimes you kind of can't see what's going on, but all the attacks are very, very telegraphed. Pretty much the only thing with the sketch hitbox is when she does the big slam like that. That thing's hitbox is a little and will blow you the fuck up if you fuck up a dodge. The her healing herself mechanic thing is kind of annoying. I'm not nuts about it, but it could be worse. And it's very manageable even if you don't have the item to cancel it out. Also, I'm willing to put Vicar Amelia in good because she represents the very limit of the devs giving a shit on beast bosses. And I can tell they put effort into that one. Bloodstar of Beast. This is going to be a somewhat hot take because I think a lot of people hate Bloodstar of Beast, but I'm just going to keep them in meh. And keep in mind, once again, the order of all these bosses is probably going to change at the end of the video. Bloodstar of Beast is not that bad. At first, once again, the poison thing, pretty obnoxious, and much like Ebriatus, whatever the fuck you call her, the whole you're kind of forced to take damage thing really sucks because it's practically impossible to not get poisoned, especially in that last phase. But the moveset's incredibly easy to manage. Bloodstar of Beast is one of the easiest bosses to punish consistently. It's practically fucking laughable. So even though the poison can be a problem, the fight can be over with so quickly that I don't find it to be that bad, especially since they give you antidotes in the same room, so they're kind of telling you like, hey, you know, please, you're gonna get poisoned, heal yourself. And not to mention the pungent cocktail thing, I don't do it, but it's like the GG easy method on this thing. That's really not that bad. Undead Giant. You know, one of the more interesting bosses in the Chalice Dungeons, maybe? I mean, I know the different variants of the boss. You know, I just forget about it. It's so fucking forgettable. Everything in Chalice Dungeon is so forgettable. I'm sorry. I've just been spending half this video shitting on the Chalice Dungeon every time one of the bosses pops up. But it is what it is, man. At least this boss is unique. I'm gonna leave it in meh. Mikolaj, host of the nightmare, is butt shit. You go to fight him, you still knock the shit out of him, his magic fucking nukes your health bar. If you get hit, that is. But why is it there? Why is it there? Like, I'm wondering, once again, was this a lore kind of boss? Because if so, fuck, why? Why does the lore have to do these things to the player? This fight fucking sucks. The only thing The only thing about this fight that's potentially dangerous, two things, is first getting moshed on by one of the puppet things, though that's really not a big deal. The other thing is a call beyond. If you don't know how to dodge that, you're fucking dead. You might as well kiss your ass goodbye if you don't know how to reliably dodge that spell. It does stupid fucking damage if you get hit by like one pellet. It's so fucking dumb. And not to mention like his little karate chop moves. If you're in the middle of wailing on him, he just decides to push you back. He'll push you back and then just like, wham, you're dead. So it's almost like a pass-fail kind of thing. If you don't know how to dodge it, you're dead. If you do, then this fight pretty much doesn't fucking matter. And chasing him around the arena may be annoying once you learn the gimmick, really not bad. Mikolaj is such butt shit. Like, why is he there? And then it's like it's my whole thought that towards the second half of the game, pretty much after Shadows of Yharnam, the game just fucking does this. Like, I love Bloodborne, but the quality of the level design, the bosses, probably the enemy design as well, it goes out the fucking window after Shadows of Yharnam. Dark Souls second half is not as strong as its first half, but I think it's still pretty good. Bloodborne's first half is fucking amazing, and then Bloodborne's second half ranges from just objectively bad to okay. Moon Presence. Speaking of the second half being whack, bad. Moon Presence fucking sucks. Like, I guess it's kind of interesting, but it comes after Garamond. You had such a fucking cool thematic fight, and this fucking thing shows up, and it's just a whatever run-of-the-mill boss. Once again, I feel like this was a lore thing, which annoys me, because maybe you could have had something cooler at the end. Maybe Garamond could have gone possessed by the Moon Presence, and it could have been some, like, weird fusion of Garamond and fucking, like, Eldritch Horror, but it's still a cool fight. But instead we get another shitty beast fight, once again with sketch-ass hitboxes. And then the only interesting mechanic is when it does that move that brings you down to 1 health, and you need to wail on him. But usually the way that mechanic goes is that you go to 1 health, you wail on them, and just fucking mow the fucking grass with that boss. Like, it's so uninteresting. It's so uninteresting. And it, especially coming after Garamond, is such a disappointment. For the most part, if it didn't give you a shit ton of Bloodborns, I would not fight the Moon Presence. And I would just end every playthrough with fighting Garamond. It's such a disappointing finish. I'm not gonna lie. Such a disappointing finish of the game. If you go for the, that ending in particular. Dark Beast Parl is either butt shit or bad. Dark Beast Parl is not a fight against the boss, but a fight against the camera. But I think he's really not that hard. It's just the fucking camera's so bad. It's so bad. The camera's so bad in this fight. Yeah, he's butt shit. Fuck it, he's butt shit. That camera's just too bad. It's just too bad. Like, the fight is not hard, but the camera's so fucking broken. There's no way they didn't see this shit in testing, and they were just like, fuck it, put it out. Parl made for some cool-ass promotional material, though, before the game came out, but the camera's just too fucking bad. Shadows of Yharnam. One of, if not the only example of a gank fight going well in this game. Being pretty good. The dynamic between them, really good, and the arena does a great job of helping you manage what would otherwise be a cheap piece of shit fight. Sword guy. Aggressive, always on your ass. Candle and sword, I think? Yeah, the candle and sword guy. Semi-aggressive, will shoot fire directly at you, which you can use the big tombstone in the middle to kind of just to block you there. And then Mason Candle guy does the overarching fire, which also the big tombstone in the middle can protect you from that. They're all visceralable, which makes killing the first one incredibly easy. Now, there are different ways that you could go about this fight, because as you progress through the fight, their moveset kind of grows a little bit with the snake stuff, especially when you pretty much killed 2 of them or have gotten, almost 2 health bars empty. That snake coming out of the ground, that gigantic one, is incredibly deadly, and I pretty much, anytime I dodge that attack, I have no idea how I did it, but incredibly manageable when it comes to how you can kite them around the arena, use that big tombstone to your advantage, visceral them, use iframes and that to do, once again, an incredible amount of damage, but also stay safe. Shadows of Yharnam, a good gank fight, and for the most part, not a single time where I've done this where if I fucked up, where I've gone just just gangbanged by the 3 of them, where I felt like it wasn't my fault. That most of the time, there's always something you could have done differently to manage them better so they didn't just gang up on you, or you didn't just get hit by fireballs from every direction. Beast-possessed soul, the, I guess, Satan-looking thing that's at the bottom of the workshop, the church workshop thing. But also, for some odd reason, they felt the need to make a boss out of it in the Chalice dungeons. Much like the enemy at the bottom of the workshop, fucking beyond forgettable. It's just there. It's the most random enemy placement in the fucking game, as far as I'm concerned. And then for it being a Chalice dungeon boss, it's the same as the Keeper, the Old Lords. It's there. I mean, it might as well be the giant pig boss that's in the Chalice dungeon. That thing is just also there. Speaking of Chalice dungeon bosses, Merciless Watchers are fucking butt shit. It's the 3 fat men. It sucks. It's like the Shadows of Yharnam, but if they ate cheeseburgers on a regular basis. Like, these guys fucking suck. Alright, there's the order. For the most part, pretty close to what it was originally, except pretty much every Chalice dungeon boss, aside from 1, is on the bottom half of the list. Just like the Chalice dungeons belong in the bottom half of Hell, because they're just not fun. Thank you so much for watching this. If you stuck around this whole time, as per usual, I know I get ranty, though I do have fun doing these, even though I know people really aren't going to watch this like that, but that's fine. Eventually, we're going to be doing all the games, so, you know, watch out, because the next game coming up might be your favorite. I might shit on your favorite boss next. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share, and as always, wipe before you shit.